I, 29 female, basically adopted my toddler daughter Mia, not the real name for privacy reasons, when she was born. My mother was my best friend and passed away during childbirth due to pregnancy complications. She grew up along the Bible Belt and picked a university that was far away, so her parents didn't know nor would approve of the baby. The father was a rich foreigner who did nothing but sleep around and spend his parents' money. He was undoubtedly wealthy, but she was one of the many girls that had fallen for his good looks and money. The man knew of the pregnancy but didn't care, as he had an arranged marriage waiting back home, and left her. After her passing, her parents have been more accepting of Mia and occasionally visit with gifts. We've become a non-conventional happy family, with 2 sets of grandparents, bio moms, mine, and me to raise her. Recently, the biological father's parents reached out to me about Mia. They had hired a private investigator to find their granddaughter. It turns out his wife, the arranged one, was cheating on him, and the child they were raising was not their son. He passed away 2 years ago, and now they want to adopt their biological child and continue their lineage, etc. Although I can see them providing a much better life for Mia, I'm middle class, they are part of the top 0.1% for sure, it just rubs me the wrong way that they only tried looking for her after their son passed away and cannot produce any more heirs. Blood relationships are very important in their culture, and I do not wish to deny Mia her blood relatives, since I have introduced her to her mother's side grandparents. But if they adopt her, she would have to move to their country away from me, my parents, and her mother's side biological grandparents. So they've offered us all plane tickets to their country whenever we want to visit Mia. My parents and Mia's bio-mom's parents are all fine with this agreement, as they only visit once per year anyways due to us being on the other side of the country. I have yet to talk to Mia about this, and I don't know if I should, and whether a toddler should even be making these decisions. Am I the idiot to keep my adoptive daughter? Not the idiot. They've already tried and failed to raise one child correctly. They don't get a second chance just because they failed the first time. She's your daughter, not their do-over. I also think you'll never see her again if you relinquish her to them. Mia's happiness and stability are the number one issue, and dislocating her from her found family into a new culture would be profoundly destabilizing. Instead, she can connect with them remotely and begin visiting when she's 18. OP, it's not the wealth that should be the focus, but will they provide a happy and safe environment for Mia? Some cultures are repressive towards the girl child. Will that come under play? Especially since the bio father had an arranged marriage. That would be a hard no for me, no matter how wealthy they are. They knew of her existence but reached out only after their grandson passed away. This does not bode well. Also, you don't know the laws in that other country. Mia might be taken away from you when you step on that soil, and you will have no way of getting her back. It would be best if you spoke with a lawyer. Exactly, and yeah, saying that they will buy tickets anytime they want, but then they will say it won't be in the best interest for Mia to see them right now. She needs to get used to her new life, a new set of grandparents. Personally, I would not hand over my child to strangers, even if they are biologically related. Do not take her overseas. You will be told Mia does not remember you anyway, and just to let it go. You would never see that little girl again. Why would you ever even consider giving up your kid? You're the only mom she's ever known. Don't let any of that old world BS guilt you into anything. I hope you don't tell your daughter, and for Christ's sake, never ask her if she wants it, because she'll think you don't love her. She's your daughter. Protect her. I, 18 female, stopped living at my mom's when I was 17. She and I do not have a very good relationship, and it's become more strained over the years. The trouble started when I was 8 and my mom started dating her husband. I was several months out from losing my dad, and when she introduced me to her husband, then boyfriend, I was honest that I didn't like her dating. She told me I would come around, but within 4 months she left me with a cousin and got engaged to him while his kids were present. I found out because my cousin got a text with a photo of them, and the news had already gone around to the rest of my mom's family and her husband's family. Then I was the last person to find out about her being pregnant 2 years after that point. Her stepson, who was 15 at the time, decided he would taunt me with the news and say how mom had fully replaced my dad and I was next. I don't think he saw it that way, but he knew that's how I felt about my mom being remarried. Apparently they were all taken by their dad to be told while mom was telling her family. It was like a week later when he taunted me over it. They did attempt to include me in stuff, but because I wasn't into it, I was just left to do my own thing. Mom pulled away from me and then felt bad and tried to bond. Eventually, I just decided I'd lost her because I couldn't blend with her husband and his kids. Because she would always resent me for that, the way I resented her for moving so fast after Dad and putting everyone before me, I moved in with my dad's parents. This is where I was when I applied for college and stuff, and I got the scholarship. I never told my mom. We didn't talk for months. It was only after I started college last week that she reached out to my grandparents about something, and she found out. She was upset, furious, all the stuff, and she asked how I could leave her out of something so huge because she would have celebrated the news with me. I told her I didn't really consider her part of my life anymore, and just like she had moved on with her life away from me, I had done the same away from her. She told me it was different and I was being cruel. Her husband took over and demanded I go to them and discuss everything as a family so my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. I never set out to hurt my mom, but I did stop thinking about her role in my life after I moved out. Am I the idiot? So that my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. That says it all, that it still isn't about you. They are still only thinking of themselves, and how dare you not submit to them? Not the idiot, OP. I hope you have a good time at college. Yeah, stepdad sounds like a piece of work. What's that? You put in the effort to get a full-ride scholarship to college? How selfish and spoiled you must be. It's clear that neither of them intended to put up money for college if OP had already started by the time they found out. And then they chose to be mad about it rather than happy for her. Interesting emotional choice, to say the least. I guess Mom and Stepdad do not understand the definition of spoiled. Working hard for a scholarship and not taking money from them in college is the opposite of being spoiled. The fact that he's using the word spoiled means he doesn't have any real arguments and is just repeating all the typical complaints he sees of millennials and Gen Z. Mom needs to realize that leaving you out of her announcements has lost the right to be included in yours. It's interesting that your mom is upset not to know about your scholarship, but had no discussion with you about your plans after graduation. That seems so basic a discussion. Hey, what are your plans? Communication is a two-way street. She pushed you out of her life. Don't be bullied into letting her back in now. I, 24 female, am currently pregnant. I live with my fiancé Dan in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in, well below market value, in exchange for me hosting them when they needed or wanted to come into town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 or 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement. Yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I said I would like her to be in town when I gave birth and stay for a few weeks. But unfortunately, Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child, with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I'd love for my parents to come here and help around the house, with the baby, offer me the emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this and said she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her I didn't mean her staying with us just in town, as I believe Dan and I will need and want alone time to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and that she was going to help out, but I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within earshot, and said that accommodation would be expensive around that time of year. Our town has a very famous huge Christmas market. He wasn't about to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come, and it had been our agreement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which, fair, but I don't think having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life, and it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I don't want them in the house, but I do want them in town, and I feel a little sad that they're putting money above their grandson and me. My mother hung up the call trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that she and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing and that they thought I wasn't being reasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all this, and he kind of sided with them, saying they should be allowed to stay with us. But I still don't think it makes sense, as we will need our alone time. Was I the idiot here? You are the idiot. Serious question. Are you expecting them to pay thousands for an Airbnb so they can come over to cook and clean, then get out and give you your private time? That's honestly how this reads to me. What's worse is that the house you refused to let them stay in was the house that they sold to you at a low price out of kindness. They would make a much better profit renting the house out. It's going to be really rich when your baby is screaming in the middle of the night and you're calling your mom at her overpriced Airbnb to come over and rock the baby so you can sleep for a 30-minute stretch for the first time in a week. Are you kidding me? Of course they're putting money first, because they're the ones who would spend thousands of dollars for a damn hotel just to help you out with the baby. Blaming them is unfair and unnecessary. You're the one reneging on the deal that you three agreed to, which was for you to house them when they come to town. Wow, how entitled are you? Either host them in exchange for them helping you around the house, which is reasonable, or raise your newborn without them to do your household chores. Also, what's Dan up to during this time? Is he incapable of picking up around the house, offering you emotional support and helping you take care of the new baby? I get that it's nice to have family around to help with the new baby, but it kind of sounds like the baby's father has been left out of this picture. My wife and I divorced, and I was awarded physical custody of our 2 sons and the son she has outside our marriage. She is angry about that. Because I have physical custody, I don't consult her on every little thing. Our son, Josh, who is young, had curly hair that needed to be cut, so I cut it. When my ex picked him up, she had a fit. We had a long argument about why I should or shouldn't consult her about cutting his hair. Mind you, I had 0 issues when all 3 returned from her house with red, green and blue hair a couple of months ago. I thought it was ridiculous and asked her if our son's curls were a proxy for her not having custody, and if so, to get over it. I hung up on her. Plus, she was yelling while saying she wasn't. We had a pool party for our oldest son's birthday a few weeks later. Both of our families were there. Her dad asked to speak with me privately. He told me he thought I was out of line in how I communicated to my ex and ought to be more kind. Unfortunately, my ex lives with him. I told him it was none of his business and to tell me 3 things she could improve on. He said it's not about her, it's about me. I laughed and said he proved my point that he thinks she can't do any wrong, and if he didn't like how I spoke to her, then get the heck out. I paid for the pool. He did. Now he's spinning the story that I kicked him out and how he feels uncomfortable coming to my son's sporting events because of me. My ex asked me to apologize so as not to make things worse. I refused to apologize for something I didn't do. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Just because you have custody does not mean the children do not have another parent, and you should try to make your relationship with their mother as smooth as possible, for their sake, and co-parent as best you can. You are on a control kick and determined to show her who the boss is. She deserves to be consulted on certain issues as you do, and communication needs to improve here 1000%. You were unnecessarily rude to her father, who, yes, had no right to get involved in your business, but was probably just trying to help. You need to think about what your future co-parenting looks like because, as it stands, it's a shambles, and only your children will suffer. Agree, you are the idiot. I think that Grandpa approached this correctly. He is concerned about how you treat his daughter, so he tried to talk to you privately about it. Unfortunately, instead of speaking with him or even politely telling him it wasn't his affair, you asked a rude question and once again played king of the mountain by ejecting him from the event. Are people seriously saying he's the idiot? Do you know how rare it is for a dad to get full custody of kids? So that means she must have been doing some messed up crap. And it's a haircut, and hair grows back. Get over it, people. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like he pierced them. OP's not the idiot. Yeah, he got custody of a child that isn't biologically his, too. She'd be a real piece of work if that happened. You have custody, not him. He is the reason she is the way she is now. Not taking responsibility seems to run in that family. But for the sake of your children and your own sake, you need to handle this better, even if your anger and frustration are understandable. I recently got married to the love of my life. Wedding planning was nothing but a nightmare between her overbearing mom and my mom and sister's passive-aggressively disapproving. The biggest issue of contention was that my wife wanted our pictures to look nice, so she wanted the immediate family to follow a colour scheme. Now I know opinions about that vary, but it is important to note that my family is not hurting for money. They would be buying new clothes for the wedding anyway, and when my mom really dug her heels in, we offered to pay for her outfit. My family was extremely upset. They all refused to comply and said we were using them as dolls, ruining the wedding for them, which was dehumanizing. I backed my wife and said they would be asked to leave if they didn't wear the color scheme, but again offered to pay for their clothes. They didn't take me up on my offer and did show up appropriately dressed. I noticed they were all being cold though, no congratulations, no hugging, just cold and disinterested. When it was time to take pictures, my mom told me they would sit the pictures out. They felt that they'd been used as props and were not okay with that being documented. I told her she was ridiculous and asked whether she wanted pictures from her son's wedding. My sister jumped in and told me they weren't treated like family, so they didn't want pictures. Note these weren't even weird colours they would never wear. I was furious and my wife was going to be so hurt. I told them they could just get out if they didn't want to be in the pictures. They seemed shocked but left. My youngest sister called me a brainwashed piece of crap, but my mother and older sister just got their stuff and wouldn't even look at me. My stepdad told me that my mom wouldn't admit it, but I hurt her feelings. None of them have reached out since the wedding. You are the idiot. All of this mitchy-matchy or the pics won't look right is ridiculous. The vast majority of formal events outside of weddings do not require colour schemes, and the pics still look amazing because everyone feels good about looking their best and supporting whatever they're all dressed up for. Your wife is the idiot for making this a hill to die on. You are the idiot because it's your wedding too, and this was not worth feuding with family or anyone else over. You don't get off the hook on the ground that you were just supporting your wife. Not the idiot. It was a colour scheme, not matching tattoos, and if his family is acting so petty over this, they probably have deeper issues. The fact that his sister called him a brainwashed POS indicates that at least she has something against his wife and is implying the wife is controlling. Also, if your family was being so cold, why would you want them at the wedding anyways? You probably saved the mood by kicking them out. Your kid's wedding is not the place to throw a fit. Exactly. You don't make a scene at someone's wedding. If they didn't want to go along with it, they shouldn't have. Not gone halfway and tried to ruin one of the most memorable days of your life. You are under no obligation to be kind to people who treat you poorly, whether or not you share DNA.